Very sad news. 2 Israeli embassy staff members were killed last night during a shooting outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in D.C. Authorities have identified a sole suspect, 31-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago, who chanted "Free, Free Palestine" while in custody. We have video of that. Let's take a look.
Outside.
No. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free Palestine!
The man and the woman killed have been identified as Jewish American citizen and an Israeli citizen holding a German passport. Their names are Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram. The 2 were a young couple that were about to be engaged, according to Israel's ambassador to the U.S. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser held a press conference on the incident. Let's take a look.
The horrific incident is going to frighten a lot of people in our city and in our country. And I want to be clear that we will not tolerate this violence or hate in our city.
There's been an outpouring of posts on social media condemning the shooting. President Trump writes on Truth Social, "These horrible D.C. killings, based obviously on anti-Semitism, must end now. Hatred and radicalism have no place in the USA. Condolences to the families of the victims. So sad that such things as this can happen. God bless you all." The Israel Foreign Ministry says, "We are shocked and horrified this morning by the news of this brutal terrorist attack that claimed the lives of 2 of our embassy staff members in Washington. We embrace the grieving families during this painful time, and we will continue to support them always." The suspect, Elias Rodriguez, was apprehended by the police, and he said he did it because of Gaza. Independent journalist Ken Klippenstein obtained a manifesto that he says was written by Rodriguez. The Hill has not independently confirmed its authenticity, but I personally generally trust Ken's reporting. The manifesto offers further evidence that Rodriguez was explicitly motivated by a desire to punish Israel for its actions in Gaza. So very tragic happenings, very sad to hear, very sorry for those families, and hope they have, wishing them all comfort and good thoughts at this time. I'm sure there is likely to be strong condemnation of either far left protesting or anti-Israel protesting taking place. Now, I think it's, of course, you are well within your rights to be opposed to what Israel is doing, and it is not on you if someone takes that to some extreme and commits violence, but I'm sure people will be raising that issue. Violence is never the right way to solve problems, and will, in fact, even from a pro-Palestinian perspective, is going to backfire on their cause, as it engenders obviously sympathy for the people killed. It will not engender sympathy for the pro-Palestinian cause. So just a horrible thing to happen in all respects.
For sure, the 2 young people had their whole lives ahead of them.
Yeah.
And so it's a horrible incident that should be condemned across the board. I know the New York Times was talking about how people from Israel have had a fear of traveling, especially to the United States and Europe, because of the recent rise in violence. There was an incident at the London embassy, the Israel embassy in London, where they had to apprehend somebody. Luckily, nothing happened there, but this was just a month ago. I do think that it's important not to politicize a horror like this, because you're going to diminish the real tragedy and the pain of the victims and their families that they're feeling right now. And I do understand that even in Israel, there are some left-leaning leaders that are blaming Netanyahu. And over here, I'm sure there are going to be, as the days go on, especially from the Republican Party, blaming Democrats for this. But I don't think that we should ever conflate violence to freedom of speech. And we both agree strongly about freedom of speech, but also understand that these horrific acts should be condemned, and they ruin everything that people are fighting for through freedom of speech. And so when people do crazy violence like this, we have to condemn the murderer and really look into what's wrong with them personally, and not kind of broad stroke paint the entire initiative that maybe they were screaming that they're representing, because I'm sure the people who have been peacefully protesting don't feel the same way as him in a violent, reprehensible manner.
I certainly hope not. I think most of them do not. I think some of the more militant protesters do. Should note, this has been reported by the media, that Fox News reports this, that they were actually, the event taking place at the building was focused on finding humanitarian solutions in Gaza. So these people who were killed were there to attend an event to discuss ways to bring an end to the violence, and were brutally murdered. So it's just it's a horrible thing to happen, and very tragic. And our thoughts.
I think there's
with
some
those
urgent work
families.
to do of confronting hate
Well, of
in all
course.
its forms, right? And I think that first comes with solidarity, and that's why it might be important now for an overall temperature check to bring the temperature down. Like, we are in the early stages of a new presidency and figuring out ways to go across the aisle and, try to work with foreign nations and figure out what our country wants most, but most importantly, how to create peace around the world if we're going to be involved in these conflicts. And I think that is really the beginning to trying to bring the temperature down around this whole conversation. But obviously, I never want to attach any violent act to any cause. I like to look at the single individual.
Well, and I always point out when things like this happen that in this country, political violence is thankfully very rare. We have, unfortunately, way too much violence in this country, but politics is not usually the motivating factor. You hear about it when it does happen because it is rare, but this is clearly a case where it's politically motivated violence, and we certainly don't want to go down have that be increasing and suddenly start living in a very different country where it is routine for people to blow each other away when they disagree on politics or world events. That is not, that's what people in third world countries have to deal with. That's not what we have to deal with here. So it is very important to remain steadfast in opposition to taking matters into your own hands. That kind of thinking is not likely to prevail, even on behalf of a cause you may fervently support.
Agreed. And again, condolences to the family and people involved.
Yes.
Up next, what some are calling another Oval Office ambush. Did you guys see it? This time it was with South African president.